Is Matt Smith throwing shade at current Doctor Who? It kind of looks that way, as he's given an interview about the dumbing down of TV shows and movies for audiences who need safe spaces. The only thing I could think of that really has been dumbed down more than to anything else is Doctor Who, and it's been intentional. Russell T Davies has admitted from the get-go that this is going to be a dumbed-down season, that they're not going to be leaning into science fiction. They're going to be leaning into fantasy now. They're doing stupid things like having singing goblins who eat babies. I mean, it's ridiculous. And a lot of the shows don't even pay off. Like, I mean, sometimes he just like sets up a scenario like 73 yards and doesn't even like answer the questions, and then says, "Oh, we're not going to answer the questions. We're going to leave it open to interpretation." It's just because he didn't write an ending. It's really what happened, and didn't want to go do a second draft. It is the dumbing down of Doctor Who, and as we reported yesterday, it doesn't look like it's going to get renewed for a season 3 because of it. Audiences don't want a dumb Doctor Who. The entire point of Doctor Who all this time has been a smarter show than the most other of television. If you go back to the Tom Baker years, of course, you've got like writers like Douglas Adams working on the show, providing some of the best science fiction possible. It has been dumbed down, and Matt Smith's completely right. We'll get into what he's said into these comments in just a moment. This is wild. But is he throwing shade at Russell T Davies? It's possible. My name's John Delarose, everybody. Of course, this is a great spot for all of your Doctor Who news and rumors, and I would appreciate if you like and subscribe, join our community here. We have a great science fiction community especially, and I am a science fiction writer, so when I do my reviews, I do it from a writing perspective and give a lot of in-depth behind-the-scenes look at what it means to write a good story when talking about these things. And it comes from all of my experience here. This is The Oration War. It's a trilogy, which is a great space opera sort of deal. If you love this, like Hyperion by Dan Simmons, if you love Babylon 5, the intelligence stuff out there, this is definitely going to be something for you. So check this out. It's in the description below. Grab the whole trilogy today. It's all on audiobook too, if you prefer that way. And thank you guys for all the support so far. I'm hard at work writing a sequel series for this, which is a space exploration deal. If it's about going through space, and maybe we'll do a little time travel as well, as I'm feeling a little bit inspired these days. But this is what Matt Smith is saying. Very interesting, coming from Variety this morning. Amid all the Doctor Who controversy stuff going on, the Disney bosses getting very mad at Russell T Davies because the ratings are a disaster. Him completely ignoring things. The Radio Times sweeping it all under the rug, even though it has not been picked up for a season 3. You got to remember, season 1 and 2 were commissioned in advance. Disney paid for a lot of that. That's why the budget's so high these days. And they're relying on special effects, having a sort of like eye candy in front of you to hide the fact that there's not a great story, that there's nothing in depth there, that there's no character work, there's no real world building. It's just a bunch of laziness coming from Russell T Davies. If you look at every episode of the season, it's either a copy of what he's already done before in the 2005 series, or it's a copy of somebody else's show. I mean, they literally did a Bridgerton episode. I mean, it's so stupid. And that's what it is. This is what Matt Smith's talking about, I think. He says, I worry everything's being dumbed down by trigger warnings. Too much policing of stories is a shame. Isn't being shocked the point. And it gets pretty interesting as he gets into his actual analysis of what's going on. Like I said, this applies directly to Doctor Who. And I got to wonder if he didn't like his experience there, what's going on with that? Because, they trot out David Tennant every single chance they get at this point. Like, I don't know if they've got some dirt on him or something like that. He's in trouble as well. I mean, there's been the whole political situation with him. That's maybe something I'll do in another video. But gosh, David Tennant's really off the rails. But Matt Smith has largely kind of just been distant from Doctor Who, as he's been in House of the Dragon. He's been in other things. And this is what he said to the Times of London about concerns over trigger warnings. Now, Doctor Who, again, it's a giant, weird identity politics safe space. It reads like a Gen Z sort of you better not offend me kind of show with your bigotry. We're gonna be loud and proud and out, and it's a big pride parade TV show. It's a giant kind of trigger warning. Don't rock the boat. Let's be as woke as possible to appease our overlords. and it's extremely boring storytelling as a result. So what he says is everything's being dialed and dumbed down. Absolutely. This is exactly what's happening here. When audiences are being tipped off in advance, being told what to feel. And Russell T Davies definitely did that. If you look at like him and Gatwa, like they said there's going to be poignant attacks on the bigots. There's that one episode where they were crying because the white people were literally racist against the black doctor. I mean, it was really ridiculous. And they do tip them off in advance and tell them what to feel with Doctor Who especially. He said, House of the Dragon said, the effing point of all of his acting choices as of late is we should be telling morally difficult stories nowadays in particular. Interesting. He said it's okay to feel uncomfortable or provoked while looking at a painting or watching a play, but I worry everything's being dialed and dumbed down. We're telling audiences they're going to be scared before they've watched something. Isn't being shocked, surprised, stirred the entire point? Too much policing of stories and being afraid to bring them out because the climate is a certain way is a shame, and I'm not sure I'm on board with the trigger warnings. So this is happening more and more on TV shows. They give these little trigger warnings in advance of shows. They change things based on whatever the political climate is. We've seen this happen time and time again, especially with the streaming shows like that. They are ready to change things up into the last minute, and it happens quite a bit. So very interesting on this front. He said he had to go down to a local video shop when he was younger, seeing provocative films such as Slither, Basic Instinct, Disclosure, all of these erotic thrillers. I was way too young to be watching them. Yeah, you were. I watched Friday the 13th when I was 9. Oh, you shouldn't have done that, bro. Your parents should have stopped that. Actually, that scarred me. Absolutely ruined me. Yeah, that's something that'll damage a young psyche for sure. Which, there's a difference between a trigger warning and a hey, this is not something that a young audience should watch. A trigger warning's aimed at adults. It's aimed at people who are so emotionally stunted, they're not going to be able to handle something. And that's why we really can't have any good Doctor Who stories anymore, if you look at it. I mean, gosh, you have to appeal to the lowest common denominator if you're Russell T Davies, because if you appealed to a general audience and you actually tried to do a smart Doctor Who, and you did something like you did back in the day, it wouldn't work anymore. Because you'd get canceled, and it wouldn't be the audiences that would tune out at that point. It'd be the cancel culture that would come at him for just doing something right. These people are insane. If you look at what's going on with the Acolyte and trying to quote hashtag save the Acolyte, and if you look at what's going on with Rings of Power, these shows are being written for the shippers out there. If you don't understand that, that's the relationship goal oriented people. They want to see the main character, Gal, and the Acolyte get with the Sith dude because he's so hot. And that's the kind of, and rather than have the Sith be evil and show true evil for what it is, that's what they do. Rings of Power is doing the same with Galadriel and Sauron, teasing some kind of relationship there rather than him just being outright evil. And the audiences actually reject that because it's not just the fact that people have stupid TV, but they're treated like they're stupid too. And so audiences, not being stupid, realize that the networks are stupid, and then they're like, you know what, screw this, I'm not going to watch this. So this is happening. Trigger warnings have been increasingly common in media ahead of movies or television episodes that contain graphic subject matter, including depictions of sexual assault or self-harm, separate from a typical parental guidelines, like a TVMA rating that warns of drug use or nudity. Trigger warnings are more specific. Like I said, it's aimed at adults, not children. I like the things that are aimed at saying, hey, children shouldn't watch this, because that's important. Now, I wish they'd do more of that. I wish they'd add that to Doctor Who, because all the weird gay making out, children shouldn't be watching. It's a weird grooming thing. But for adults, having trigger warnings and stuff, Matt Smith's absolutely right. It does just dumb things down. It does make everybody stupid. AMC made headlines for warnings for Martin Scorsese's mob epic Goodfellas, containing cultural stereotypes that are inconsistent with today's standards of inclusion and tolerance. And that's what it's all about. They can't even just let a work be anymore. Disney actually has canceled Donald Duck comic books from ever being reprinted again. I crap you not. Because they didn't quote, the way that the native savages were painted in those. It's that ridiculous at this point. And those Donald Duck comics are fantastic, by the way. It's really, really sad what they're doing. They're erasing history in order to make their woke agenda more prevalent. And that's exactly what's happening all the way around here. Matt Smith calling this out is just the latest in the line. I think the tides are changing. I think 2024, the woke is dying. And people like Matt Smith are savvy enough to go, okay, we need to self-correct. There's other people who aren't that savvy. Russell T. Davies, Nakuti Gatwa, David Tennant. They're all going to sink with the ship. But maybe Matt's going to survive it here. All right, leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure to check out The Stars Entwined and its subsequent sequels. Grab the whole trilogy today. Just click this Oration War link right here. I appreciate you guys for being there. We'll be back soon.